Since the start of the war in Ukraine, the Baltic states have been the loudest voices warning NATO and Europe about the danger of Russian aggression. They've seen this story before. For them, Russia's invasion of Ukraine wasn't just another war. It was a reminder of their own history under Soviet occupation. For years, analysts feared that if Moscow became desperate enough, it might strike beyond Ukraine, targeting a NATO member and triggering the largest war in Europe since World War II. And on September 19, 2025, that nightmare nearly became real. That morning, 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter jets crossed into Estonian airspace over the Gulf of Finland and loitered there for 12 long, tense minutes. In the command centers of Tallinn and NATO's air defense network, alarms blared, radars tracked, and fighters scrambled. Those 12 minutes were a lifetime. The incident ended without shots fired, but it sent a clear message to Estonia. Russia was testing their defenses and their resolve. For Estonia, this was the final straw. Within weeks, the small Baltic nation announced a stunning $4.7 billion weapons deal with the United States, an enormous figure for a country of just 1.3 million people. The package included some of the most advanced missile and air defense systems in the world, capable of striking deep into Russian territory. Overnight, Estonia began transforming its skies into one of the deadliest traps any invading force could face. But this sudden leap in military power didn't appear from nowhere. It was years in the making. For decades after joining NATO in 2004, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania had no fighter jets of their own. They relied entirely on NATO's Baltic air policing mission, where Allied aircraft from across Europe would rotate deployments to guard Baltic skies. It was a fragile form of protection, reassuring, but borrowed. That changed in 2023 when Estonia and Latvia signed a €400 million deal with German defense manufacturer Diehl Defense for the IRIS-T SLM medium-range air defense system. For Estonia, this was historic, the largest defense contract in its history. By late 2024, the first IRIS-T batteries had arrived, and by mid-2025, Estonia's new air defense wing became fully operational. In just 18 months, the country went from having almost no air defense to fielding one of the most advanced systems on Earth. The IRIS-T SLM isn't just another missile battery, it's a precision weapon born out of modern warfare. Ukraine has already proven its effectiveness on the battlefield. Since 2022, Ukrainian forces have used IRIS-T systems to shoot down Russian missiles and drones with near-perfect accuracy. Reports suggest a kill rate close to 100%. In one battle in July 2025, a single IRIS-T battery destroyed 8 Russian cruise missiles in 30 seconds, firing 1 interceptor for each incoming target. Every missile hit. The technology behind it is remarkable. The IRIS-T's missiles can reach targets 25 miles away and at altitudes up to 13 miles. Unlike radar-guided missiles, which can be jammed by electronic warfare, these use advanced infrared imaging to lock onto the heat signature of a target. That means they can see aircraft, drones, or missiles through smoke, fog, and electronic interference. Even stealth aircraft struggle to hide from this kind of tracking. Each IRIS-T battery can engage multiple targets simultaneously. Fighter jets, drones, or even the munitions they carry. And Estonia, with its compact geography, only needs a few batteries to cover its entire airspace. The country purchased 3, complete with TRML-4D radars that provide 360-degree coverage and can track over 1,500 targets at once, enough to monitor the entire width of Estonia in real time. But Estonia isn't just building defenses, it's preparing to strike back if it has to. In April 2025, the government announced plans to buy a long-range ballistic missile defense system for about €1 billion, considering options like the American Patriot, Israel's David Sling, and Europe's SAMP/T. These are the systems designed to stop the very weapons Russia loves to threaten its neighbors with ballistic missiles. That threat is close, literally. The Russian town of Luga, which hosts missile bases, sits only 60 miles from the Estonian border. A Russian Iskander-M launched from there could hit Tallinn in under 4 minutes. In that short window, Estonia would have to detect, track, and intercept the missile. That's why its strategy focuses on a layered defense network, multiple systems covering every type of threat from hypersonic missiles to low-flying drones. Then, in October 2025, Estonia took an even bigger leap. Defense Minister Hanno Pevkur announced a massive increase in U.S. weapons purchases from $500 million to $4.7 billion. Congress approved the sale, marking one of the largest U.S. arms transfers to a European nation in years. The shopping list reads like something from a Pentagon wish book. Doubling Estonia's HIMARS rocket launchers from 6 to 12, increasing the stock of ATACMS missiles from 18 to 200, and purchasing the new Precision Strike Missile, or PRSM, with ranges exceeding 315 miles. This fundamentally changes the balance of power in the region. The HIMARS system has already proven its worth in Ukraine, launching precision strikes on Russian ammunition depots, command centers, and logistics hubs. The ATACMS missile takes this concept even further. With a range of nearly 200 miles, it can strike deep into Russia from Estonian soil. Its warheads can devastate hardened targets, from air bases to ammunition depots, with pinpoint accuracy. To put it in perspective, St. Petersburg, Russia's second-largest city and a major military hub, lies only 100 miles from Estonia's border. In theory, Estonian ATACMS and PRSM missiles could hit targets on the outskirts of the city within minutes. This gives Estonia not just deterrence, but offensive reach. Any attempt by Russia to mass troops near the border would immediately place those forces under threat. And Estonia isn't stopping there. It's also acquiring CRAM systems, short-range defenses designed to shoot down incoming rockets, artillery shells, or mortars in their final seconds of flight. These will protect vital infrastructure like command centers, air bases, and ammunition depots, creating a final layer of defense against saturation bombardment. All of this fits into a broader strategy being developed across the Baltics, the Baltic Defense Line, a network of over 1,000 bunkers, trenches, radar stations, and supply roads stretching from Estonia to Lithuania. It's not just a line of defense, it's a statement. Together, the Baltic states are turning themselves into a fortress that no invader could easily break. To fund this monumental effort, Estonia announced a €10 billion defense investment plan for 2026 to 2029, nearly a quarter of its entire GDP. That's more than double NATO's traditional 2% target and even higher than the 5% proposed by former U.S. President Donald Trump. Few nations in the world spend this much relative to their size. But for Estonia, the price of freedom has always been high. At the same time, NATO itself is evolving. It now spends more on defense than the rest of the world combined, and its members are rearming at a pace unseen since the Cold War. In February 2025, NATO launched two multinational programs focused on air defense, one targeting low-altitude threats like cruise missiles and drones, and another developing passive surveillance systems that can detect aircraft by sound or heat, even when radar fails. These layers of technology mean any Russian aircraft approaching Estonian airspace will face a gauntlet of defenses. First, NATO's long-range radar network spots it hundreds of miles away. Next, Estonia's IRIS-T radars lock on, while NATO fighters, likely F-35s or Gripens, scramble for interception. If the aircraft crosses into Estonian skies, it becomes a target for IRIS-T missiles. Any retaliatory strikes would then be countered by CRAM defenses. And all the while, Estonia's HIMARS and ATACMS systems would be primed to strike Russian bases before they could even launch another sortie. In this new balance, Russia faces an impossible dilemma. To invade Estonia, it would have to mass troops near the border, making them visible targets for Estonian and NATO missiles. If it tried to strike first, it would reveal its positions and invite a massive counterattack. Every path forward carries a risk Russia can't afford. For Estonians, this isn't just strategy, it's survival. The memory of Soviet occupation runs deep. Many still remember the decades when speaking freely or flying their national flag could lead to imprisonment. That collective memory drives Estonia's determination today. Defense isn't just the military's job, it's a national project. Half of Estonian men are expected to serve at some point. Volunteers train in the Defense League on weekends. Families practice evacuation drills. A sense of readiness permeates daily life. When the Russian jets crossed into Estonian airspace that September, NATO didn't hesitate. Italian fighters responded immediately, joined by Swedish and Finnish aircraft. The coordination was seamless, proof that NATO's defense commitments are not just diplomatic promises, but real operational realities. Had the Russian jets lingered a few minutes longer, they might have been intercepted and escorted to a NATO base. A single miscalculation could have set off a chain reaction no one wanted. Ironically, Vladimir Putin began the war in Ukraine to weaken NATO and prevent its expansion. Instead, he's achieved the opposite. Finland and Sweden have joined the alliance, doubling NATO's border with Russia. The Baltic states, once seen as vulnerable, are now among the most heavily defended nations in Europe. Every act of Russian aggression only strengthens NATO's unity and accelerates its rearmament. 2 decades ago, when Estonia joined NATO, Putin barely reacted. Russia was weak, dependent on Western energy markets, and in no position to resist. But in 2025, after years of war, sanctions, and economic decline, Russia finds itself surrounded by stronger, better-armed neighbors. The Baltic region, once Moscow's backdoor, is now a fortress pointed squarely at it. The September 19th airspace violation was a test. Russia wanted to see how fast NATO would react, whether the alliance was distracted or divided. What it got instead was an answer that could define the next decade of European security. NATO responded in minutes, coordination was flawless, and the Baltic frontier is no longer a weak point. It's a wall. For a nation as small as Estonia, this transformation is remarkable. But for Russia, it's a warning. Every provocation only makes its neighbors stronger. Estonia's message to Moscow is clear. Attack us, and you'll pay a price that makes Ukraine look like the easy fight.